what's up everybody, BDL44 coming at you with another video. Alright, I got what I needed. It was real cool in there. It was just enough time under an AC to get me refreshed and back out here ready to walk. What I needed only cost me $20, so that was really cool. I left a couple things I could have purchased, but hey man, that was under what the budget would have been. And now I get back into that cool air and possibly work on another playlist or something. Maybe do my Hunter's Blue for a third day in a row. We'll see how I feel when I get home, but it feels cooler than it did. I don't know if that's a sign of things to come. I think that temperature overall is coming down after being 100 for about 2 days. So we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, man, it's a good day, hot day, but a good day, you know. I think I'm relieved to get what I needed here, because there was some discrepancy on whether or not it was going to work out based on my situation, but I was able to get it, so I feel a lot better. And now I move forward, hoping that I can salvage my day and be as productive as I've prided myself in being. So yeah, man, I made some videos just now talking about just the powers that be having to navigate the times we're walking into, how difficult it could potentially be to keep people in order going forward once they realize they can't. And I know this is going to sound like tongue-in-cheek, but can't trust their government. I think most people believe they can't trust their government. I don't think most people know for a fact that they cannot trust their government. I think it's like one of those situations where things are like, there's not a whole lot of evidence of deliberate wrongdoing for enough of the masses to collectively come to the conclusion that they need not comply with their government. I think that's what I'm trying to express. I think more of that information is going to be available to more common-minded Americans going forward, common-minded Westerners. And that is going to be a hell of a thing to try to navigate for our government and for everyday citizens, navigating around people who are going to grow a new level of not only distaste but paranoia that just comes naturally with people not really understanding but having a lot of fear. I mean, a lot of the fear that people feel in their hearts is controlled fear. It's fear, but someone's there in your back pocket and you choose a side or to align with what's going to be most safe for you. I think that's the common thought for most Americans. If I line up with the people that are on one side or another, that align with my most basic values, there's hope. Once you deteriorate that dynamic and insert a lack of trust for both sides and unearthings of skullduggery being done by both sides, then you start having a new type of thing going on amongst Americans who may not necessarily be particularly educated or overly sharp. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what I think is there to be concerned about for a lot of us. There's a lot of people out here in this country who are armed, who are ready to fight for one side or another. Once they realize both sides don't have their best interests, who knows what they're going to do to try to find solutions for that problem. And that is why I think a lot of people are going along with the bull crap, because they're concerned about the fallout of people being told the truth. They don't like people like myself telling the truth, because if it's not responsibly handled, it could create a lot of problems. And a lot of people are just trying to navigate peace. But if it's fake peace, if it's phony peace, and if we got people doing horrible things to children underneath that peace, it ain't real peace. And that's essentially what I want people to understand. Yeah, we're able to function without hurting one another, but it's built on a fungus. It's built on bull crap. You understand what I'm saying? So because of its existence of peace, horrible things are happening that a lot of people do not know about. Horrible things are allowed to take place. Horrible people are amassing a great deal of wealth and power because of it, because of the nature of it. And if you're not pleased with that, you got to tear the thing down in order and sacrifice some of what it is you consider peace and tranquility in order for something that's more integrity based to be built upon. This is why having a bad foundation is so bad in whatever you're trying to do. Starting civilizations, building a house, trying to do art on a poor surface. It can be bad for you. And you can build the greatest house, you can build the biggest civilization, you can sculpt the greatest sculpture, but if the foundation is deteriorating, so too will what you've built on it. And that's essentially what we have here. The foundation was corrupted. Yes, we've built beautiful stuff on top of it, stuff that we desperately not want to have to redo, desperately not want to have to live without. But for the sake of keeping it going, so too does horrible things happen to people who don't deserve it. So too do we continue to find ourselves in a space where we're separated from one another because of belief in lies and propaganda that's meant to control us and to coerce us into spaces where we're problems for someone else. And that is America, through my eyesight, a problem for people all over the world. While we have all this wonderful peace and privilege, that's only at the expense of other people all over the world who can't even get off the ground with their civilizations because we're standing on their backs, keeping them from doing so. And we've been warped into a space where we think we're bad people for pointing this out. We've been brainwashed into thinking that we're not supposed to point this out. Like this is something wrong with us for pointing this out. And I hate to tell people, but I'm not against pointing it out anyway. I don't particularly think something that allows for horrible things to happen through the cracks of it should really stand, man. I really don't. I don't care how many people are so comfortable with it. We gotta condition ourselves for something else, because this allows for horrible things to happen. We allow it through what it is that we have going on with the inner workings of how our government works. And this genocide was the last straw for me personally. It was the last straw. You can't show me what I just saw for the last 2 years and expect for me to say, well, at least my house is in order. And if this is what's required for my house to be in order, let's get this house out of order. That's how I'm going to approach the situation. If this is what's required in order for me to be at peace, I can forego my peace. If it means the children have to die just because the powers that be decide they want them to, I'm not going to say, well, I weigh that against being able to walk down the street. No. I don't need to walk that down. I don't need to walk down that street that bad. I really don't. I can take another route. I stay home. And that's the nature of true Christianity and unselfishness, the actual Christianity, the teachings of the Christ, not just adhering to some agreement to follow to religion. No, the unselfishness of being willing to die for someone else. That was his example. That was what he lived for. Is the unselfishness and the sacrifice necessary without benefit coming his way. That's what Christianity should be about. And accepting people's differences and not thinking that you, just because God may be unhappy with somebody, that you're supposed to be unhappy with somebody. Too busy trying to figure out how best to be of service to them, to condemn them. You got God for that. You don't need to be the condemner of humans. God will take care of all of that. You just need to understand you're just as likely to not be qualified to cast a stone because you too have a glass house. Those who believe in Christ and actually follow Christ, and not just the concept of a Christ, understand what he wants from you. And that's essentially how I live my life. If the only way for me to enjoy the peace and surroundings that I have is for the people who allow for that to be in place to have the right to molest and genocide children, then no, I don't I don't need that peace. That's not a blessed peace. So essentially what I'm telling you, that's not a God-fearing, blessed peace. It's a cursed peace. If people have to suffer in order for it to be, it's a cursed peace. It's not a peace I should want. And if I believe in God and I believe in Jesus, like I say I do, then I can trust that me abandoning that peace will bring about the true sustainable peace that ultimately he has promised for all of us. Not doing things the wrong way for the sake of holding on to something that is cursed in nature. That doesn't speak to your faith in God, it speaks to your lack of it. And this is what I inherently understand. This is why I don't go along with the powers that be just because they want to kill and maim and otherwise will allow me to chill. If I allow them to, I don't need to chill that bad. It ain't that serious that I chill. And that's essentially what I'm saying to all of us. It ain't that serious that I chill. If the essence of me chilling requires for me to be fine with children being mistreated in any way, my responsibility as an unselfish follower of the teachings of Jesus Christ makes it so that I should be willing to sacrifice that peace for the sake of the safety of those children, without questioning whether or not I don't benefit from such, without questioning what happens when things go wrong for doing so. Because that's me, in the essence of me saying I don't believe that God can do something about it if something does go wrong. And that betrays the nature of the relationship with God to begin with. I don't have to worry about that. What happens if I betray the chosen people of God? If the chosen people of God are wage war against God, then me betraying them isn't betraying God, now is it? If they're going to use the religion as a means of exalting themselves and doing horrific things to others, me betraying them is not betraying God, because they are in fact betraying God. My responsibility is to do what God told me to do, not follow people down a path of accepting whatever they choose just because they happen to have power. What power does God have if they have all the power? You tell yourself you believe in God, why do you believe that you have to adhere to the power of man if you truly believe in God? And that particular question that I just asked is a question that we've effectively not asked enough in our various walks of life all over the world. We're too busy trying to adhere to the power of man, but then pride ourselves on being believers in God. It doesn't make any sense, people. When we start holding ourselves to task for making sense as it pertains to how we live our lives as believers, regardless of what major religion you believe in. If you keep adhering to the wicked power of man, but call yourself a follower of Christ, and somewhere in there your faith has failed you. Or better worded, you've allowed your faith to fail your God. And I won't follow man down that path, no matter how much I benefit from it, no matter what goes wrong, seemingly goes wrong because of it. I'm not responsible for being responsible for things that God is responsible for. That's God's domain. What happens if I betray the people of God? That's God's business. They want to kill children, I need to let them do it, or they're going to take from me what it is I built. That's God's business. You're telling yourself you can't survive in that reality. Essentially, by way of what they're doing, God is forcing you into that reality. That's not a reality you're supposed to avoid. That's a reality that you are tasked with embracing. And people are failing God in that way for the sake of the power of man. But then go to church every Sunday, pray every day, ask for things for themselves and others. But when it's time to stand up against the power of man, they cower.
Pasó Juan y dicen ellos también, ¿verdad? Así dicen.
And so that's what I want people to understand. I see that as clearly as day. And I see a lot of people, a lot of them, who call themselves believers, who probably believe themselves to be believers, lacking the self-awareness to understand that they are betraying God and aligning with the powers of man, and worried about the consequences of not aligning with the powers of man. And in doing so, they betray themselves, they betray God, and they betray the world. And they've been brainwashed and or trained-washed, as in trained, and they got to be able to navigate themselves around that training for the betterment of their eternal soul and the betterment of those who suffer for their complicity to the evil of the power of man. Because it's those people that ultimately you're betraying. When I see people being complicit with Israel, do you know what I also see? People who have suffered at the hands of Israel. Children who have died at the hands of Israel. And you can't talk your way around that. Well, I just had to do it. I mean, this is the way we're in Rome. We got to do as the Romans do. Oh, these people are in control of everything. They're going to take everything from it. Oh, they're going to hurt this person. They're going to do that. They're going to do that. So you let other people get hurt. Or if I would have withstood against them and nobody stood with me, all I would be is just swallowed up by the nature of complicity. That's your responsibility. That's the reality the Lord has coerced you into with your responsibility to follow him. That's not for you to say, oh man, hell's too hot. If God sent you to hell, you're supposed to be there. He has something for you to do there. I'm not willing to risk it. Oh, you're going to betray God. You see, that's what a lot of people are doing right now. They think it's wise. They're protecting themselves and they're letting children get hurt. They over in the Middle East, man. They believe some evil stuff anyway. We ain't got to protect them. That's what a lot of people are doing. They believe some evil stuff. Yeah, if they had Christ in their life, maybe we save them. That's what you tell yourself. You can sleep that way, huh? You can sleep at night doing that? Fascinating. How these evil people have coerced you into a space to say that people who don't agree with you are disposable. Children who come from groups of people who don't believe what you believe are disposable. Fascinating you can sleep doing that. Fascinating how your morality doesn't allow you to betray that idea. Fascinating. Because that's what a lot of people are doing. The people that say Muslims. You know what Muslims do, right? Don't ask me if I know what Muslims are doing when I'm watching you do it. What it is that you say you don't like them doing. You're letting people go to slaughter because they don't agree with you. You're complicit with people who are trying to terrorize them because you don't agree with them. It's craziness. And then you call yourself a Christian. What part of Christ is that? Where Christ tell you to do that? I didn't read that part of the book. I must have missed that part. In my everlasting quest to read a chapter a day of the Bible for the last 15, 20 years, I must have missed the part in there where he said, adhere to the power of man against me. No, I didn't read that. Stand complicit to genocide if it's the Muslims of whom is being genocide. I must have missed that part. I didn't read that. I must have skipped right over it. And then furthermore, to believe so strongly that what you've been told about those people is true. Did it ever occur to you that the people who told you what they told you about those people were not telling the truth? Did it occur to you that you've been told lies so that you would be complicit to genocide when it happened to them? That the whole purpose of telling you that was so that you wouldn't care when they were getting slaughtered. So that you would be able to sleep at night telling yourself that they were against God, so therefore deserve what was coming their way. Don't you know you were told that so that you would stay away? When they're going through something where otherwise they need your help. Don't you know that you are playing into the devil's hands? Or does your arrogance and pride in yourself for following this for so long back you into a space where you're following into spaces where you shouldn't? Because that's also a dynamic in this. I've been devout in my religion for 27 years. And so I know what I'm doing when I follow my religion down the path of complicity to genocide. No, the hell you don't. No, the hell you don't. Or only stupid people are following the pro-Palestinian people. Intelligent people know how to navigate through the ways of the world. And so you've effectively been brainwashed. Got it. You mastered every bit of the propaganda that they conjured up to keep you complicit to the evil that they're doing. Got it. You're not smart. You're well trained. And they changed the definition of that to smart. As to have it so that people who were outside of that, who were smart, would then be in an environment for which they would not be considered intelligent for their deviation away from that training. Not by accident, not by happenstance, definitely by design. Been listening to people all my life say, oh man, people smart because they went to school. They read. What was in them books? Who was in them? Who was writing those books? People who had intentions of training people toward being complicit to genocide, basically. That's the answer to that question. And so what you end up doing, mastering exactly what they wanted in your head, and you got their approval, you are smart. No, man. No, that's not smart. Smart is being able to think for yourself outside of that training while simultaneously being exposed to all them books. Did you read all that shit and then say, nah, I'm not rolling with that because it don't make no sense to me? No, you did not. You rolled with it. You looked at the approval of the people around you of whom you were told in your environment you should be seeking that approval from. You got it. And now you feel like you've done the right thing when actually they were just brainwashing you, training you to be exactly who they needed you to be so they could get away with everything they're doing. That's all it is, America. That's all it's ever been. And if you followed the teachings of your major religion, you would find that you were supposed to deviate from a good portion of that training because it coerces you into spaces where you're ultimately hurting people, denying people what they deserve, being fine as they suffer, crying out for help, valuing your own peace over rescuing them from their terror. The sustainability of your peace that's built upon their terror. They needed you to be fine with that, and that's exactly what they've been teaching you. This is what we learned, man. This is what we've learned following this damn genocide. This is what we've learned, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of y'all think y'all intelligent because you followed the books. But you're actually stupid because you weren't smart enough to think your way around those books. Independent thinking around the training was essential to the salvation of people that it disposes of. Disposes of people, man. That's what America does. That's what the Western world does. It disposes of people. Its own people and others. And some get to have peace and tranquility and aspire for greatness or whatever the hell they call themselves when they're going after money. You're going after fame, power, clout, or whatever the hell you want to call it in your times. Notoriety, prestige, awards, and all different types of other goofy stuff that doesn't actually save lives around the world in a lot of cases. Don't save the world at all. Just exalts your name for a time until it's unearthed that this was a corrupt situation and you were a big part of it. Ta-da! Hidden in plain sight. I'm telling you right now, man, it's very disappointing to see people fine with what Israel's doing because it's Israel doing it. They're not Israeli, they're not Jewish, they're Goy. Well-trained Goy. And they're fine with it because they haven't gone down the rabbit hole. They've been complicit to those who ultimately call you that and have not asked any of the questions that ultimately should be asked in order for you to have the context that your life deserves. You're not asking the right questions and you've been trained not to. Nah, man. Enough. Enough. Who are those people? They say they are who they are. Prove it to me. That's why I'm not mad at Candace Owens for going down this rabbit hole with the French president. I was listening to Dr. Lamar Hill on Joe Budden once again, and he was talking about she's going down a path where she could lose everything, and maybe she should just not. No, maybe she should. Maybe we need to start unearthing people like this who have the world held by the balls based on their power that they've only amassed by doing horrible things. They're gaslighting us, playing in our faces, making deals behind our back to throw ourselves and others down the river. And for the sake of those who've built something in these environments, not wanting to lose what it is they've built, they get to stay in power doing the same evil shit that they've been doing. No, somebody needs to fall on the sword to expose all of this, to liberate all of us. You don't need to be complicit to this nonsense to keep what you've built. You need to trust that God is going to make sure that you are living through what comes of you destroying what you've built for the sake of someone else. That unselfishness will be rewarded. That sacrifice will be rewarded. But if you're godless and you're of the world, then of course you're going to play into the hands of the Antichrist. Because you don't believe anything good comes from your sacrifice. But you definitely see something good of letting other people fall to your sacrifice, for which is selfishness and wickedness. And to the godless, just a means of being able to survive. It's a means of thriving in an evil world. Why do you think it's evil? There's so many people are complicit to that evil for the sake of what it is that they've built. Not being destroyed by those who would ultimately hold them by the balls for the sake of their own just deviousness, horror. Demons, out of control nature of their own behavior. Wanting to be able to get away with whatever they want to get away with, and they're using that power to do so. You gotta hold those people to the fire. Somebody gotta fall on that damn sword so that we can expose them. And if Candace Owens wants to do that, I think it's a very good thing. If anybody wants to do that, I think it's a very good thing. Because it needs to be done in order to liberate all of us. If the president of France has a bunch of stuff in his back, in his history, that exposes all types of horrible things that connect other dots that liberate thousands and millions or however it goes, just by unearthing his story, you can find the root to all these other different things, then damn it, unearth his story and expose what he's done in the dark. Same thing with the president of the United States. If he'd done a bunch of bullcrap leading up to him getting this presidency, and he's being blackmailed by people who know what he did, damn it, unearth those things so we can all be free, including him. Unearth all those things so that we can all be free, including him. Because if what he is trying to keep quiet gets exposed, he don't have to be a puppet to these assholes anymore. And all the supreme evil stuff that they're doing, because he's positioned where they need him to be doing what he needs him to do, it's no longer in place. He's free. Yeah, he gets shamed for all that awful stuff he did, but he's free of those who've been using him and his legacy for their own intentions, against that for which were decisions that he should have not made. Things that he likely did when he wasn't wise enough to realize how bad it would be for him doing those things. And he's going to be the last person to tell you that, because he's in the thick of it, being blackmailed. People are being blackmailed, man. People are victims in a lot of these cases. They don't want to stay in those places. If anything, they want some get back for their bondage. And they're not in a position to get it themselves. And it's incumbent upon intelligent people, not just well-trained people, but intelligent thinkers, to be able to fathom that and then make it real. I'll tell you right now, if I'm being blackmailed for something stupid that I may have done, do you know what I want you to do? Expose it. I did something dumb? Okay, I did something dumb. Now these people can't have me doing all something evil in response to it, to keep it quiet. In the name of keeping it quiet. They can't have me doing wicked stuff, holding it over my head. Yeah, maybe I get the chair for that evil thing I did, but I ain't gotta be in they back pocket no more. Watching horrific things that I don't align with and pretending like I'm fine with it. That's not a way to live. Some things are worse than death, and in my mind, that's worse than death, especially for someone who aspires for power. You don't have any. All you have is that dumb stuff that you did that they know about, and an obligation to keep it under wraps. And so I'm telling you right now, that's exactly what I am. I'm minus fathoming that and saying to you, they ain't gonna tell you that they'd rather at this point everything they ever did be outed so that they don't have to keep on doing this evil shit no more. And I tell you right now, I'd rather the Jenga game come down than to be standing on the backs of children building the game up. That's how I feel. And I don't know how the rest of y'all feel, but as a grown-up, as someone who was once a child who was unsafe, putting people through that trauma for the sake of my own civilization is a nightmare for that child. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare I'm praying to God someone wakes me up from. And I definitely don't care if people who did bad things get exposed for those things they actually did, which would then liberate me from this nightmare. PDF 44, I thank you all for watching. I'm out.